It all started on a bright Tuesday in spring. I walked into Lawn & Order, a store that sells very serious machines for your yard. My old mower was a sad, rusty thing that required a special prayer and 3 strong pulls to start. But on this day, I saw it. It was not just a lawnmower, it was a garden tractor. It was big. It was shiny and impossibly green. It had more cup holders than my car, which seemed important at the time. The salesman, a man named Chet, with a mustache that looked like a small sleeping animal, told me it had a V-twin engine. I did not know what that meant, but it sounded powerful, like something a superhero would have. I bought it immediately, using a credit card that probably screamed in pain. Bringing it home was an event. My neighbors, who usually just waved politely, came out of their houses, they stared, they pointed. Mr. Henderson from next door, a man who prided himself on his perfectly edged sidewalk, looked at my new machine with a mix of awe and envy. The tractor, which I named the Green Goliath, made my small lawn look like a tiny postage stamp. It was complete overkill. It was magnificent. The first time I started it, the engine purred like a very large, very happy jungle cat. I felt a surge of power I had not felt since I correctly assembled an IKEA bookshelf on the first try. I was no longer just a man, I was the captain of a powerful landship. My life changed that day. Mowing the lawn was no longer a chore, it was a performance. I would put on my special mowing sunglasses and a baseball cap. I would drive the Green Goliath in perfectly straight lines, then in complex, artistic zigzags. Children would gather to watch. My dog, Bartholomew, would run alongside, barking with what I interpreted as pure joy. I was the king of my half-acre kingdom. The sound of that V-twin engine was the sound of victory. It announced to the entire neighborhood that I was a man who took his grass seriously. Maybe a little too seriously, but at the time, there was no such thing. The machine was more than a tool, it was a status symbol. It had a padded seat that was more comfortable than my living room sofa. It had headlights, for reasons I could not understand but deeply appreciated. Maybe for mowing at midnight. The possibilities seemed endless. I started inventing reasons to use it. I would drive it to the end of the driveway to get the mail. I once used it to transport a single bag of groceries from my car to the front door, a distance of about 20 feet. I was not just mowing the lawn anymore, I was living the lawnmower lifestyle, and I was pretty sure it was the best lifestyle there was. My newfound popularity was intoxicating. Suddenly everyone wanted to talk to me. People didn't ask about my job or my family. They asked about the Green Goliath. "How fast does she go?" asked Tim from down the street, his eyes wide with admiration. "What's the turning radius on that thing?" I became an expert on topics I knew nothing about a week earlier. I would use words like hydrostatic transmission and mulching capability in casual conversation. I felt smarter. I felt more important. I started wearing my mowing sunglasses even when I was not mowing. I wore them in the grocery store. I thought it gave me an air of mystery and power. The attention went straight to my head. I began to make questionable decisions. My neighbor, Mrs. Gable, asked if I could help her carry a heavy plant pot. Of course, I said the Goliath can handle it. I then spent 10 minutes trying to tie the pot to the back of the tractor with a bungee cord. The pot eventually fell off and broke, but the important thing was that I had tried to use my magnificent machine. I started offering to mow things that did not need mowing. I offered to mow my other neighbor's driveway, which was made of concrete. He politely declined, looking at me with concern. My behavior became more and more centered around the tractor. I would wake up early on Saturday mornings, not with excitement for the day, but with an urgent need to check the Goliath's tire pressure. I bought it a special cover to protect it from the rain. I polished its green exterior until it shone like a precious gem. I spent more time with the tractor than I did with my actual human friends. They would call and ask if I wanted to go out. I would say, "I can't, I need to rotate the Goliath's blades." This was not a real task, I just wanted an excuse to be near my machine. The fame was wonderful, but it was also isolating. I was no longer just me, I was the guy with the tractor. I started to believe my own hype. I thought I was better than the people with their sad little push mowers. I would sit on my porch sipping lemonade and watch them struggle in the heat, feeling a sense of smug satisfaction. I was living on a different level, a higher plane of existence, powered by a V-twin engine and an inflated sense of self-worth. It was a glorious, shiny, and ultimately lonely throne to sit upon. The cracks in my perfect lawn-mowered world began to show. My lawn, once a symbol of pride, started to look terrible. Because I was mowing it every single day, the grass was stressed and turning yellow. It was short, patchy, and looked like it had a bad haircut. But I couldn't stop. The thrill was not in having a nice lawn. The thrill was in driving the machine. I started mowing in the evenings, the headlights of the Goliath cutting through the twilight. My neighbors were no longer watching with admiration. They were watching from behind closed curtains, probably wondering if I had completely lost my mind. The complaints started subtly. Mr. Henderson, my usually friendly neighbor, came over one evening. "You know," he said, trying to be polite, "some of us are trying to have a quiet dinner." He gestured toward my roaring engine. I just smiled and gave him a thumbs up, pretending I couldn't hear him over the glorious noise. I thought he was just jealous of my superior machinery. The invitations from friends stopped coming. My phone was silent. The only one who seemed happy to see me was Bartholomew, my dog. But even he was starting to look tired from all the running. My personality had changed. I was arrogant and loud. I would talk about my tractor at parties, at family dinners, and at the dentist. I became that person. The person who has only one topic of conversation. People's eyes would glaze over when I started explaining the benefits of a wider cutting deck. I didn't notice. I was too busy admiring the reflection of my own face in the polished green hood of the Goliath. I had become a lawnmower bore, the most dangerous type of bore there is. I was blind to the truth, lost in a world of horsepower and freshly cut grass clippings. The turning point came on a Sunday afternoon. My neighbor, sweet elderly Mrs. Gable, approached me as I was preparing for my third mow of the day. She was holding a plate of cookies. "Dear," she said with a worried look in her eyes, "I baked these for you." She then looked at my yellow lawn, and then back at me. "Are you all right? You seem loud." It was the word loud that hit me. Not the machine, me. She saw that I had become loud, obnoxious, and obsessed. In that moment, holding a plate of her kindness cookies, I saw it too. The green Goliath was not a tractor, it was a monster, and it was turning me into one too. That night, I made a decision. The green Goliath had to go. It was a difficult choice, like breaking up with a very beautiful, very high-maintenance partner. The next morning, I didn't drive it, I pushed it. I pushed the giant heavy machine out of my garage and all the way back to Law & Order. It was a long, sweaty walk of shame. People stared from their windows, but this time, I knew it wasn't with envy. It was probably with relief. Pushing that silent machine, I felt the quiet of the neighborhood for the first time in weeks. It was peaceful. I realized I had been the one making all the noise. When I arrived at the store, covered in sweat, the salesman Chet was there, his mustache looking particularly smug. "Changing your mind?" he asked, a twinkle in his eye. I explained that the tractor was too much for me, that it had a negative influence on my life. I expected him to argue or try to sell me something else. Instead, he just nodded slowly, as if he had heard this story many times before. He and his co-worker, a man named Stan, took the tractor back without any trouble. They gave me a full refund, which I used to buy a simple, quiet, old-fashioned push mower. A humble machine for a newly humbled man. Walking home, carrying my new lightweight mower, I felt a huge sense of relief. The air felt cleaner, the birds sounded louder. That evening, I mowed my lawn. It was hard work. I sweated. It took a long time. But it was quiet. Mr. Henderson gave me a genuine friendly wave. Mrs. Gable brought over a glass of iced tea. I was just a regular guy again, a member of the community, not its self-appointed king. My lawn eventually recovered, and so did I. Life returned to a peaceful, non-motorized normal. Here is the funny part. About a year later, I read a story in the local newspaper. The police had uncovered a secret society of garden tractor enthusiasts who were using their powerful machines for illegal street races late at night. They were racing on a deserted road on the edge of town. And who were the ringleaders? You guessed it. Chet and Stan from Law & Order. They had been selling those powerful tractors to people like me, hoping to recruit new members into their secret racing club. I guess I dodged a blade on that one. I just wanted a nice lawn, not a life in the fast lane.